All right, welcome back, everyone. We took a much needed and prolonged break and then have been chatting it up a little bit. And we've been chatting about the solution of mining Antarctic ice, and for multiple purposes, the two biggies as far as cooling the planet being reflectivity, and then, dropping the proverbial ice cube into the warm liquid to make it colder for the ocean generally. And then from the melted water, we can use that for myriad purposes, of course. And then the counterbalancing pumping of ocean water, whether using waves or tides as the energy source, but pumping ocean water up onto, say, desert lands to generate evaporation, more clouds, et cetera, et cetera. So we've got all these tools in the toolkit. And getting back to the very beginning of the previous recording and the beginning of the Solution Club, I really think there's a major, major danger zone here. And that the most dangerous of the danger zones of all is that individuals within our community become fixated on one particular solution and say, aha, that's the one, either because I came up with it or because I think it's best or whatever. I think that is probably the single biggest reason why we haven't yet figured out how to come together and work together on this as a collective intelligence, is because it's kind of like a couple that's wanting to get married, but they can't stop fighting long enough to actually get married. So they never get married, and all they do is fight. See, for me, the getting married symbolizes a coming together, this communion of humanity to form this collective intelligence. And once we've come together and we're in agreement that we need SRM, that's really more, that's the opportunity. Well, let me take that back. I believe that there are two parallel tracks we need to take. One is we, being those who basically get it, people like us, and that we, this community of people who get it, essentially focus on two parallel tracks. One is communicating the urgency to the world so that more people can join our community and our numbers can increase, strength in numbers. And the other is that, and for that, I think we need a singular message that's simple, that's a message of agreement, not a message of disagreement. And the agreement is we need to cool the planet using SRM, right? That's the only way to actually cool the planet long term. Short term, distributing Antarctic ice and cooling the ocean by melting that ice in warmer portions of the ocean, that in and of itself, separate from the reflectivity thing, doesn't actually cool the planet as a whole. It just transfers heat from one part of the planet to another. And I'm not saying that's not valuable. That could be totally valuable, but and in fact, that could potentially be a parallel and separate objective in and of itself, separate from cooling the planet as a whole, the objective of redistributing heat in an emergency manner by essentially taking the cold ice to the places where we need to cool it down the most. And, we need to figure out, anyway, what's my main point? My main point is there's a bunch of solutions, and the most urgent solution of all is the solution of humanity coming together to form a collective superintelligence so that we can figure out all the rest of the solutions, where they fit relative to each other, what's the optimal mix, and crucially, now that as we get clarity on the optimal mix, how do we get the world to implement these solutions at the required scale within the required period of time? And those are problems not in science or engineering, but, well, yes, in science, in the sciences of sociology, psychology, anthropology, etc. And but my point is, politics, political science. My point is, I think our biggest challenges are there, not so much in the engineering or the science. The science is well known. The engineering is straightforward, but what's not straightforward is how do you get an entire species, such as Homo sapiens, on a planet like Earth, going through what we're going right now, with all of the addictions and all the attachments and all the standoffishness, right, that I talk about, I talked about in the video to Guy and Pauline and Ye, all that standoffishness, all of that, and just our present culture of ownership and dominion, right, where each of us, whoever comes up with an idea, that's now their idea, and damn it, they've got to get credit for it, and they've got to promote that idea at the expense of other ideas or other solutions, right? So that's where I think our biggest single opportunity is right now, is getting off of it in terms of our whole modality of separation, standoffishness, ego, hoarding, seeking to take credit for X, Y, or Z. That's what I think we need to overcome right now more than anything else, because if we don't overcome that, all these ideas will just, disappear in the Australian brush fires, right? If we, humanity, cannot figure out how to pull it together and come together and work together, then we're definitely doomed. So rather than invest time talking about specific solutions, right now here on the Solution Club, I really think, again, the most urgent solution that we need to master is how do we get these diverse individuals and groups and communities to come together and work together in a framework of collective intelligence. And that, of course, gets back to the full stack question that I keep going back to. What's your stack? What's your full stack strategy from beginning to end? How are we going to do this? Right? What comes first? Is it feeding people? Is it collective intelligence? Is it SRM? Is it Yatao publishing 10 papers? What's like the very next most urgent thing that we need to accomplish? What's the very next? Right?
Well, I'm going to just say like that, given how you laid it out there now, and 1 second, I'll plug in my earphones because it's am I breaking up there?
No, you're fine. You're fine, James.
Oh, am I? Okay. Just given the way you laid it out there now, right? The way I see it is that whether you focus on feeding the people, everyone, that in itself it takes a lot of organization and a lot of voluntary and people involved to organize all that, right? That's grand. That's one thing aside. It's a necessary thing. It needs to be done, obviously, and that's what it's going to take. As you said, there's no one particular thing that's going to solve this. It's a number of different things that will have to be implemented, and I mean a number of different SRM implements. Things have to be implemented for SRM, solar radiation, with the mirrors being the most primary, I think, but there are a number of them that can all be implemented at the same time to increase and enhance the effect, is what I'm saying. Anyway, point is, with all of these things have one thing in common, and the one thing in common is, as you said, is getting humanity as a whole to come together to actually work on these things. So if that's the one key problem, then that's the one thing we should focus on, obviously. And if humanity, the reason simple for humanity not coming together to get behind all these things, get behind these ideas and solutions and development, try to develop these solutions, is simply because they don't know it. They don't know it to exist. They don't know it to be the truth. Those that might have an inclination of it aren't even really, aren't even really convinced that it's true. And the majority of people have no idea of it whatsoever. And until everybody actually knows what the fucking hell is going on, sorry, language again, what the hell is going on, then they can't actually get, passionate enough to get involved in something if they don't know that something is actually happening, is what I'm saying. You know what I mean? But we see every day, like in life, like that, whether it's one individual or whether it's a group of individuals, such as the movement there now for the Floyd movement there now, and how people got together to move there for the right reason. When the reason is the right reason and the passion is behind it, when people know what's the truth and then they're passionate about it, then there's motivation to do something about it, is what I'm saying. The problem is they don't know about it. Our main problem is we need to expose. The problem needs to be exposed to the world, is what I'm saying. Simple and plain. As you said, like if there was an asteroid heading towards the planet in the morning and it was going to hit in 12 months, the whole world would know about it. It's as simple as fucking that, like, and everybody would start working on it, like, or let's fucking try and do something about it. Sorry, language again. Point is, we need to figure out a way of letting everybody know what the truth is. And I think the only way you can do that is to work on the experts to come together and admit it. You know what I mean? And enough politicians as well, I suppose. But you need enough credible people there to stand together is the thing. But how we do that is another thing, because you can't get them even to have a decent, I don't know how you do that. As simple as that. You can't even get them together half the time.
Well, yeah, exactly. I mean, look at you've got these two Harvard scientists who can't even freaking talk to each other. Yeah, they can send, poisonous emails back and forth. Not really poisonous, that's going too far, but just standoffish emails that basically says my solution is better than yours, right? When what we really need to do is form a united front that says, listen, for the moment, let's forget about whose solution is better than whose. Let's come together and not focus on our differences, but on what unites us, which is a firm belief in SRM, right? So let's form the united front behind SRM. And, and then as we accomplish, well, I'll just recap. As we unite, then let's form two parallel tracks that anyone can work on both tracks if they want. In fact, everyone's encouraged to work on both, but they're very different tracks. One basically sets about addressing the science and engineering and which are the specific solutions, what's the optimal mix and magnitude of solutions. And then the second, of course, is how do we, get the rest of humanity in on the conversation, awoken to the urgency and engaged and supporting in one way, shape, or form, right? We need those two parallel tracks, right? And I think they really shouldn't be mixed too much in the following sense, right? If we take this whole positional and attachment and ego thing and we go out there swinging against each other and saying, no, my solution's better than yours. No, my solution's better than yours. The rest of the world's going to look at us like we're a bunch of buffoons. We can't figure it out. We can't sort anything out. We can't agree on anything. And they'll take the conservative approach of sit back and watch and wait and see who wins the slugfest with the best solution. On the other hand, if we take the united front approach, we can say, listen, which mix of solutions, that's far less important than the fact that we need SRM. And a tiny, tiny fraction of humanity even knows what the hell SRM is, much less are pounding the table saying, we need it now. So I think that track that basically says, look, SRM independent of specifics, that just needs to be a thing. We all need to get steeped in SRM, what it is, how it works, why it's so urgent, etc. And then in parallel, far away from the politics and the debate and the media and all that. I mean, not that we shouldn't be totally transparent about it, but it's a whole separate conversation, much more based on modeling, analytics, and, you know, run the model and let the results speak for themselves, right? Let the results speak for themselves. It's much more objective, and that should not be politicized or turned into some popularity contest or anything like that, right? I mean, it inevitably will, in the public arena, face all kinds of scrutiny, and different solutions will be talked about in different ways. But if we can show the world a model and show the results of the model and say, look, here's our crystal ball. It's not perfect, but it's what we got. And it basically says this, that if we do this mix of solutions, we get these results. If we do this other mix of solutions, we get these other results. It's pretty obvious what results we want. We want a planet that's cool, that can feed everyone, and that can preserve life, and we stop the destruction. And yes, there's a whole bunch of things we need to do to achieve those objectives. But the first and foremost is cool the planet. Stop the exponential overheating. Wait, Melissa's saying something. One second, you guys. Let me go on mute. I'll be right back. Melissa says it's do or die time. Do or die. And that's exactly it. So that's why we need to have that public conversation that doesn't get lost in, you know, these contests between which solution is better than which other, right? For SRM, we need a united front, getting the world to know about SRM and the urgency of it. And, you know, this is something we can all agree to. We all agree we need to do SRM. We may disagree on specifics, but that's the underground 007 laboratory, where MI6 laboratory, where we need to, you know, focus on which exact mix of solutions, because that's in the realm of modeling, et cetera, right? Modeling and optimization. Anyway, going on mute. Go for it, Emery.
Okay, so primarily speaking, the main driver for the introduction of all the extreme changes in the climate now that we are experiencing, the main driver of that, would you say that the main driver of that is due to the fact that there's a loss of ice? Is that the clear understanding? Is that a clear understanding? It's
No.
the loss of ice and
No.
the changing of the jet stream, the fluctuation of the jet stream, making the fluctuation from hot to cold to extreme, and the frequency of change will affect the conditions for the existence of life, for the habitat to provide the sustainability for life, you know, to be able to grow food and whatnot, right? I mean, this all starts somewhere, you know, and it's like a domino effect of these incoming positive feedbacks that happen consequently because of one thing happening, thus affecting another. But the primary driver is what I'm looking at. And is that the loss of ice?
No.
No, Emery. No,
No?
it's the warming, Emery. It's the warming. It's the temperature going up basically and being trapped within the fucking atmosphere because of the greenhouse gases. That's the main primary driver. The warming of the planet is the driver of everything. It's causing the melting of the ice. It's causing, you know what I mean? It's causing all the different albedo effects. It's causing everything that comes from the warming. all down to due to the the greenhouse gases.
But it's like a vicious circle, like because of the warming, you're losing ice. And it warms even more.
Oh yeah, and that's where all the 67 self-reinforcing feedback loops kick in. Once you knock over that first domino, all the other dominoes kick in. But the first domino, to James's point, is the greenhouse gases trapping in the heat. Once you trap in the heat, right, a whole bunch of other dominoes start getting tripped, like the melting of ice, which reduces the mirror, increases heat absorption, and we're off to the races, except you don't just have 2 or 3 horses racing in it now, pulling the planet down. You got 67 thoroughbreds pulling hard at increasing planetary overheating. But, you know, it took that first horse to kick things off so that the other horses could then get woken up and do their bit.
It's because, it just tends to be a little bit frustrating because, the biggest greenhouse gas, okay, is the water vapor in the air. Okay. That's 90, I don't know, it's up there. I don't have the exact number. But that's in my vocabulary huge. So it's a driver. It's the main player. Now, of course, you got the CO2, you got it's a player, and the methane for sure, and you've got all the other bandits, right? But the biggest one, it's the elephant in the room. It's huge, right? Now, and we all know where that one leads. It has different stages, water, it has the vapor, and it has the ice. So there's different stages of that. So, it's because a lot of things have changed, with all these reinforcing feedback loops now in play, and I listen to Guy talk so much.
I think the thing is, Emery, that none of the self-enforcing feedbacks would have ever come into play had it not been for the pumping of CO2 and all the gases into the atmosphere in the first place, causing the greenhouse effect, which then in turn starts to trap the heat and then starts to warm everything. Now think of what happens to water. Yeah, there's a lot more moisture in the air when you think of greenhouse gases, water vapor being one of them, and it's the most dominant, we say. But what happens to water when you put it in a kettle? Like, think of what's happening inside the kettle, or a pressure cooker for that matter. If you block the outlet, the pressure becomes unbelievable. The water just evaporates, and it all becomes moisture. So if there's too much moisture evaporating into the atmosphere, that's what's causing that's what's causing the weather effects with the upper stratosphere and everything, and everything's been put out of motion then because there's too much moisture or too much evaporation, there's too much heat. It's the warming is causing everything because of the greenhouse gases trapping it. It's just simple and plain. We have to stop the warming. Simple and plain. That's the first and foremost thing you have to do. Then draw down the CO2 that we've been putting into the atmosphere. Try to come up with technologies that we haven't yet come up with to cover the technologies we're using now, which is basically burning fossil fuels. Stop that so we could stop the driving around cars and the burning fossil fuels for once and for all. Once we've come up with alternative green energies, after we've drawn down the damage we've done for the last fucking 50 years. But first, we have to figure out how to cool the place and stop the Arctic from losing the rest of the ice in
Well,
the future.
this is it. It's quite a predicament, you know. Like Guy says, it's a predicament, right?
It's a labyrinth inside the labyrinth, really, and people have no idea it even exists. That's the point we're trying to make. The point is we need to get, you know, everybody needs to fucking know in order to get on board. It's as simple as that. But there's plenty of scientists and professionals that know what's going on at the moment. We need to get all these people together, not to be getting their egos in the way and thinking they have the fucking ultimate plan. There is no ultimate plan. Let them all work on their individual plans, but let them confide in each other, you know, but work together, collaborate, come up with fucking new ideas, but come together and get to work as soon as possible, because we're running out of time. That's as simple as that. But they're not going to do any of that if they don't come together.
Yeah, this whole thing is very time sensitive.
Yeah, and because of that, I think we have an opportunity to figure out what we want to focus on as a team, as a group, as a community, as a family, right? Because, you know, here we are. I mean, like earlier today, starting 4 hours ago, we're digesting this email hot off the press between two Harvard scientists who can't even agree to talk to each other. They're just passing notes under the door. And these are two very privileged people in terms of access to information, access to expertise, to knowledge, to data, to resources, right? And so that's a microcosm, a very poignant and very tragic microcosm of the bigger problem that humanity is not coming together. So I think, pardon me?
And that's just one email so far of a number. Okay, I mean, just imagine all the emails that we were unaware of, and what the discussion has been in those emails. You know, I mean, I think that would be a shocker right there. You know,
Hi,
I'm
guys. Good to see you.
That's what would be the shocker in my view. You know, we were unaware of all the emails, but what is quite obvious to me is that their strategy ain't working.
Well, they don't have a strategy. Their strategy is to publish papers, get tenure, get promotions, get bonuses, get money, get prestige. They don't have a strategy for cooling the planet. That's why we need the collective intelligence.
It's hospice. It's live, you know.
Guy's strategy
Love
is
remains now. Only love remains now.
So I just, if I may make a comment, I don't want to interrupt you, Emery.
Okay.
So today I went into Seattle, which looks like a war zone. I was in Capitol Hill area where they had violent riots last night, standoffs with the police. Everything is boarded up and graffitied. Pretty much only homeless are on the street. And I go to my building site, which is a mega $1 million project. I mean, and the contractor's showing me around all these rooms on the ground floor, which are TV bars, exercise rooms, movie theater, you know, lounge, sporting area, you know, blah, blah, yoga room. And I just said to him, I really feel like I'm looking at what our old world was made up of, and this just doesn't work anymore. And I was like, are people going to be able to use these spaces with COVID? You know, it's like, it's done. Here we have all this rioting going on because of race and poverty and injustice. Then we have this elite on the other hand, right? That just, it doesn't function anymore. And nature has made damn sure it doesn't function anymore. On the ferry back, I was researching the Black Plague, and it's very parallel. They lost in Europe 80% of the population in 5 years. They went from 80 million down to 30 million. And I just find that kind of fascinating. You know, it was a virus that affected everyone, all ages, all race, all, you know, backgrounds, rich, poor. And really, the virus is affecting us the same way. It hasn't, of course, ripped through quite as many millions of people in terms of death. But the other thing, I was listening to NPR, well, actually BBC, on the way back, and they were interviewing people in the Seattle area talking about, because they're now asking to defund the Seattle Police Department in order to start channeling funding to people who, for example, we have a lot of mental illness in this area, and a lot of the police use force with people who are, you know, having mental illness issues. And people don't want to fund that anymore. They want to fund hospice workers and workers who can handle people with compassion instead of using force. And a lot of the people they interviewed, who are just people in the street, right? They want our mayor, Jenny Durkins, to resign. They said she's not part of this new world we're creating. She can't handle things in a compassionate way. So when I was just overhearing you guys talking about, you know, these scientists who are in these ivory towers who are still upholding an old system, what I'm starting to see is the cracks in the tower, and the tower's going over, right? And they're still trying to prop it up, like the Tower of Pisa, right? And the people are cheering the tower coming down. And I believe that if we could get people stirred up and start to outcry publicly, like what is happening around race issues right now and social justice and unity around climate change, that could maybe start swinging or tipping the balance, you know, swinging things to addressing these, so that these scientists get off their cushy butts in their cushy chairs and their nice university positions and start to do what's right. Start to take action and not just, you know, writing papers. Oh, that's lovely. You know, getting their paychecks as the Titanic is sinking. Anyway, I just wanted to mention that because that's kind of boiling up right now, you know, in the news. And my phone is ringing. I'm very sorry, but love you. See you in a
Great
minute.
stuff, sweetheart. Thank you. Thank you. Perfect.
Yeah, thanks Lisa for that there when she gets back. But yeah, I agree with what she said. I mean, look what the damage the COVID's after causing now to the society around the world. You know what I mean? Everyone has been affected, except for the 1%, the elite. I mean, in America alone, like the corporate elite they profited $420 billion fucking dollars off of just the COVID virus alone. And they're still, you know, planning on trying how to make money out of it. The top fellas with the money, like you know who I'm talking about, with their investments in fucking vaccines for fucking the future ones and this one and what have you. But it's all about making money. The rest of them, well, after making 420 billion on top of everything else, they're all just fucking hoarding their assets now and selling their assets and hoarding and compiling their money now, and as best they can, because they can see they know what's coming. That's the point I'm making. They know what's coming. I know what Lisa was saying there about, you know, creating public awareness about the climate and everything. But that again takes telling the public the truth. You see, the public don't know the truth. The 1% do. They're now scurrying. They're like rats deserting a ship, and they're pumping they're pumping money into the fucking stock market there every morning or every night after it closes to make sure that the market is up in the morning when it starts, so that not to arouse panic or whatever. But they don't care. They'll pump money in there all day long because it's imaginary money. It's going nowhere, and it's just buying them time now. It's just buying them time now to prepare to fucking do a fucking a runner basically when the shit really hits the fan. And when the shit really hits the fan, it's too late to really try and fucking people together then to try and implement all these fucking things. So if the scientists don't wake up and realize that themselves and snap out of their ego trips, we're all fucked basically, because it is in their hands at the end of the day. Like, they are the experts. They are the ones who came up with all their scientific findings and research findings and everything else. They're the ones who fucking figured out we had this problem. They're the ones trying to figure out how to solve it, but they're all trying to do it separately. You know what I mean? They'll all agree that they all come up with the idea. They'll all agree with the one idea that we're in trouble, but yet none of them will work together. What the fuck? Like, I don't understand that myself. And the point is, we need to get public awareness, and that's what I think we should focus on.
Jamin,
No, go ahead, Emery. Go ahead.
that video we saw there the other day, what was that woman's name? Sandra or Sarah? Dylan's contact, the one that the roads lead to Rome. She's taking the thing to the table, you know.
Yeah, let's just call her the German lady, because I know
the
she lives in Germany.
The German lady.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that was a horrific enlightenment, wasn't it? I mean, that to me is the bottom line of understanding of what's going on. Okay. They want us dead. I mean, unless it's profitable, right? Unless I don't know, even that, it's crazy.
No, unless it's profitable to them personally to keep us around, they prefer that we be dead.
And they have that agenda. Who knows? Maybe these people are gonna end up down in Antarctica. I don't know, but it was very painful to really let that sink in again. I mean, I knew that, but she really exposed that to me. When I revisited that video again, it was so clear. It was so clear. And I think it was an unintentional release of that, of that truth, She wouldn't have normally opened up to that and let that out. But it just so happened that we caught that on tape, okay? And it was very, very true, what she said, okay? She may be on the chopping block as far as I worry that maybe, well, who knows? Those people don't normally watch these things anyway.
Well, you hit a few nails on the head there, anyway, as far as I'm concerned, there, Emery, because that was my point of going back to that one particular block party, part of the block party, and because that particular block party 4, and that particular meeting stood out to me right from then, and from there on, my mind was made up anyway that we're on our own. The public are on our own, because if you actually watch the end of that, as I said, I got slightly annoyed at the end of that, because the conversation kind of slightly leaned to whether we should inform the public or work on these things privately and then figure out things, blah 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 blah. And I got annoyed with the point that the whole point of this is that we need to inform the public because we have an obligation to. Just like the surgeon who knows you're going to die has an obligation to tell you you're going to die. We know what's going on. We have an obligation to tell the public so that the public have a chance to get on board with the collective intelligence. Right from then, I was saying that. And the point is that one of the main things I was pointing out was in that few words that she said, and you're right, Emery, she relaxed. She relaxed in the moment of the conversation, and she left out something casually like that. But what the poignant part that she left out in that, and I can remember it word for word was, and I'm not revealing anything other than the simple thing is that when she said that the point is, do they want to save the people? And Jamie says, how do you mean? And she goes, well, there's 8.5 billion people. She said, they would say 1.5 billion is enough. The rest are just eating, drinking, and wasting. And she said, this is the key point. She said, I always say that to them when we discuss this. And that was for me then, was the end. Like I was said, they are actually discussing that, like, because she said, I always say that to them when this comes up. She said that the thing is, though, that the wrong 7 billion might die, the wrong people might die, and we could be left with the bad people, not the fucking good people. So that's the fucking key point in that whole conversation, was that they actually were discussing it, or do discuss it. Not that I'm saying that they have any plan or agenda, I'm just saying it was discussed. That's what I'm saying. Simple and plain.
Yeah, not only that, but they control the land and the sea. Okay, so how much do they have to give up? You know, that was a question. How much are they going to allocate, right? How much are they going to unlock for this endeavor of cooling the planet, you know, of saving life on the planet, right? You know, how much profit, you know what I mean? So they're talking like they have full control of the land and the sea, and the control the money. You know, it's like you know, we got a lot of scientists and people connected to these tables. You know.
It's like I said, and it's like Jim said in that meeting, I don't think they really understand or comprehend the exponential growth thing, like, you know what I mean? They don't understand that there won't be a world for them to come up out of their bunkers afterwards, like, you know what I mean? Plus the fact that they're thinking of profit, that's what she said, they're always working for profit. So their mind is thrown off with the big picture as well all the time. They're too busy making money. They're not really going to worry about SRM or any other fucking thing at the moment, because they still think at the end of the day, because of their wealth, they're safe.
Yeah, but it came out too that they're not human. That's what she said. That's what her indication was. Now, I mean, I'm going off on a tangent here, you know.
Yeah, but
there's a lot of this talk about you know what I mean. Okay.
Yeah, but that's a term or phrase we use here in Ireland as well. If it's a really, you know, if it's a really bad person that's not really thinking or care about anyone else but themselves, they're not fucking human, like.
Yeah, but I don't think that's what she was meaning. She was meaning not planetary. That's what I think. She let the cat out of the bag for me.
Well, I'm going to just say that I'll leave that one open for interpretation.
Yeah, me too, but you know. Over to you, Jamin.
Yeah, you know, so here's the thing. You can almost imagine the conversations going on inside the Club of Rome and other similar circles, where they're basically, you know, despising these growing billions of masses who don't look, talk, or act or think like they do. And it's like, all right, we need to get rid of these masses of people, and but let's make sure that the right people are left. In other words, us, right? We, the privileged and powerful. And among the many things that are just infinitely wrong about that scenario, one of many is that there is apparently so much confusion and disagreement among scientists about what the heck is happening that nobody knows. And so, you know, everyone kind of believes what they want to believe, to paraphrase Tom Petty. And that's all the more reason why we need, those of us who get it, need to come together and form a united front so that we can have a simple and singular message, right? We need to cool the planet, and we need to do it now. It's increasing exponentially. And just like, you know, if I had a house of cards here and I started dropping raisins on top of the house of cards one at a time, right? Emery, can you tell me what quantity of raisins I'll have to drop for the thing to finally collapse? Is it 10 raisins? Is it 100? Is it 150? Is it 47? You don't know, and I don't know, and nobody knows. And it's kind of like that. Here we are, you know, chipping away at this, at our very web of life. And, you know, as Guy McPherson said in a video, maybe in 2016 or something, he said, it's like we're like a little kid with playing in a chemistry lab, mixing stuff up and wondering why we haven't blown ourselves up yet, right? So the point is not to predict exactly how many raisins it'll take to knock down the house of cards. You're off the hook on that one, Emery, right? That's not the point. What is the point? The point is the house of cards is coming down. Fast motion or slow motion, it's coming down, and there's only one way to stop it, and that's SRM. And that's the frickin' message, period. End it there, right? Now, you want to get into the nitty gritty, join us and, you know, work your way through the stages of knowledge and understanding, even get certified if you have to, because, you know, where the one thing that I agree with on academics in isolating themselves, the one thing I agree with is selective isolation. I think they go overboard on the isolation, but there are times when you just need to sit down and hunker down with other physicists and talk turkey, talk physics without getting, you know, interrupted by, you know, us non-physicists. I get it. I get it. That's the same with any profession. There are times when artists just need to get together with other artists and talk turkey, talk media, talk forms, talk paradigms, whatever. I get it, right? And, but what's killing us is taking that separation to an extreme and arguing with each other over which form of SRM is better than the other, when right now what is most urgent is that we form a united front and address this all holistically and together and launch the two tracks and keep them separate. That's my proposal. And I'm open to proposals, but I think what we should focus on most here, right, given that we are running out of time and, you know, just like what Guy McPherson does makes a difference, what Ye Tao does makes a difference, what we do makes a difference. So let's make sure we do the right thing, is what I'm saying. What is the right thing for us to focus on? And I think the main thing that we have to contribute to this, right, just like, you know, the main thing Ye Tao may have to contribute is research. And we're asking more of him than just more research. We're asking him to join the United Front and actually be a leader in the United Front, right? You know, I just don't know any other way to say it. It's urgent that the leaders of this movement come together, and our job is to figure out, is to contribute to that coming together through collective intelligence, through these long form meetings, through everything that we're pioneering here, right? But it feels to me like our contributions in the realm of collective intelligence and collective superintelligence could make or break this. So let's make sure we at least get that part right. That's our, you know, that's our specialty here, is collective superintelligence. And all the facets of that, including the philosophical, the mystical, the spiritual, the intellectual, the compassionate, the community building, all the facets. It's a, like I say, CSI is a hyper object. You can't It really doesn't lend itself easily to description or characterization. It's a hyperobject. So, anyway, it feels to me like that's what we can most urgently focus on. Anyway, going on mute.
Well, you know, Jamin, that's kind of like what's in my head when I did the weight clip thing. You know, was trying to get Guy there to open up and get back to the table, get back to the game, get back to the conversation. You know, come back. You know, you're needed to, you know, in the conversation, and bring your peeps. You know, bring it, bring the stacks, like you say. You know, Ye's gonna follow him. He's gonna follow him to the end of the, you know, to the last second, right? And then he knows he's connected with all his students and whatnot, and all the papers from all the universities that he has access to. You know, bring all those peeps in. You know, we got to get everybody a chance to come in and speak, right? Give some input, because every input that finds its way into the conversation could trigger solutions, you know, solutions that can be enacted upon, right? And that's what's beautiful about it. And the unknown. Get all these people together to talk so that we can hear each other through, not just stay in the freaking box, you know?
Yep, exactly, Emery. Exactly.
Yeah, it's do nothing or die, or come together and create a new future.
Anyway, what did you guys think of the video that I recorded for Guy, Ye, and Pauline? I mean, did that convey what you think needed to be conveyed? Or was there anything missing from that? Or was there anything that was in there that shouldn't have been in there? And I'm happy to replay it if you guys would like.
No, I mean,
Play it again. Let's listen to it.
yeah, play
James,
it again.
what do you say?
No, but
Huh?
yeah, play it again. Yeah.
You've only seen it once, I think, James. Emery and I have seen it twice. Okay, let me get it pulled up here. Okay, here goes. Okay, screen sharing now. Hello, good morning, Guy, Pauline, and Ye. Ye, thank you so much for copying me on the email thread, which I'm forwarding along with this video. And I have some thoughts about what David Keith is saying, so I'll just put those on the table first. He says, you know, I'm skeptical that surface-based mirrors make environmental sense. It seems very likely they will end up having more environmental impact per unit benefit than other options. And what, you know, let me know if there's anything else written, you know, I'd be interested to learn a bit more, whatever. I mean, he's being standoffish. What needs to happen is a conversation between Professor Keith and Ye, right? And I would say that more broadly, what we really urgently need is to have a conversation between the four of us, Professor Keith, the ICE 9/11 folks, and any other significant players in this space who we think we might want to invite. I really loved the team we put together last year, and I think we should continue to do that. What I'm offering is let's go ahead and put together a proposal for a meeting, send it out to all these folks. Whoever accepts, accepts. Whoever doesn't accept, I bet you they'll probably watch the video, which we can send them after we have the meeting. And the basic point of it is, look, we're doing Mother Earth. Hey guys, I'm getting some feedback there. Could you guys make sure you're muted, please? And I'll continue here. Humanity and all of life on Earth a huge disservice by delaying the inevitable conversation, which basically goes like this. We need to cool the planet. SRM is the only way. We basically got 5 major options on the table, 6 if you include urban, but I see urban as more like an on-ramp to this whole thing. So it's an important part. So 6 with urban. You got the big guns of, yay, your solution, that's the preeminent one. We've got to cool the planet by breaking out the big guns of millions of square miles of reflectivity deployed on the oceans. ICE 9/11 is very important for preserving existing ice, the golf ball size, hollow, spherical silica spheres, floating spheres, contained by oil booms surrounding the Arctic is, I think, a super cool way, pardon the pun, to refreeze the Arctic, to cool the Arctic waters there. And then, of course, we've got desert reflectivity, as we've talked about, with the obvious disadvantages. And then we've got, Dr. Keith's and Bill Gates spraying shit into the atmosphere. I think and then number 6 is, the urban. So I think it's fairly obvious that we're going to need some sort of mix, dare I say optimal mix. There's got to be an optimal mix out there. But if we can't get past the level of being standoffish relative to each other and saying, well, let me first read what you got and then I'll think about it for a few months and see what holes I can poke in it. Look, at some point we have to get over it. At boy meets girl, at some point the two have to kiss. Humanity kissing is humanity in conversation about this, where we bring together the aforementioned. Look, Guy, you're the #1 leading expert in the world on the diagnosis of the problem. So we need you at the table. Yay, you're the #1 leading expert in the solution to the problem. And then, you've got the rest of us who play important parts, who play important roles, right? And then there are other experts. I'm sure Dr. Keith has a lot to bring to the table. Among other things, he's got Bill Gates to bring to the table. And Bill Gates has a lot of friends with a lot of money. So if we can come together as a united front and commit to figuring this thing out holistically, right? And then say, listen, world, the headline is we need SRM. Of course, there's analysis and heaven forbid disagreement between the different approaches. We're working together to find the optimal mix, and we're doing global holistic modeling that doesn't just model heat, models a bunch of things, acidity and concentration of myriad gases and whatnot. Because ultimately, and we need to find a holistic solution to everything. I'm in total agreement. Let's start with SRM. I've got a lot more to say about a lot of other topics. I've got to kick off the Solution Club now. You're all invited, so please come. And let me know what you think about, putting out an invitation to all these different folks and having just a big SRM meeting with a view to creating a united front and simultaneously communicating to the world, hey, world, join us on the SRM mission. Right? Because we need people's support. We need to give them a community that they can join, right? And in parallel, we'll be doing the global holistic modeling and everything else to find the optimal mix. And let's not go in there with attachment that, no, my solution's better than yours. Let's lay down our arms already. Let's have like a ceasefire. Present a united front to the world, right? And then once we get the world in on the SRM thing, okay, then now we bring in everybody and say, okay, let's do objective, science-based, global holistic modeling and figure out the best mix of solutions. Anyway, let's do it. Time's running out. And this is, for me, the most urgent thing of all, because it's what brings us all together, what has the potential to. More soon. Love you all. And please let me know what you think. Thank you. All right. There you have it. Any comments, any ways that could be improved? I think I feel like we're really getting the message honed down there. Anyway, I'm going to go on mute and listen, and then I've got more to say.
Well, that was that the full 5 minutes? Was it? No.
Yep, 5.5 minutes, full
Yeah.
video.
I only saw. I think I saw a smaller clip of it there when you played it back earlier. Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's exactly it. Like, I mean, what else can you say? That's exactly what's needed. Get the right people at the table and talking together. Like, I don't know what else to say about that myself. Like.
Well, actually, I've got something to add to that. It just occurred to me, if I'm not interrupting, James.
Carry on.
Is that, you see, part of what's in the way, I believe, is precisely this notion of get the right people at the table, right? You know, if you're, you know, like, let's say you go to a wedding, right? Depending on where you're at in life, look, if you're a young single man, you want to, you know, sit at a table where there's a bunch of, you know, young single women who you can hang out with and get to know. If you're, you know, an older fart like me with a pot belly who's, you know, happily in a relationship, I want to sit at a table with a bunch of my guy friends and fucking, you know, get drunk and just tell stories, right? If I'm, you know, going there, if I'm, you know, just an up and coming salesman, I want to sit at a table with a bunch of people who I might sell something to, right? If I'm, you know, you know, depending on where I'm at. But my point is that everybody wants to sit at the right table, right? Whatever's right for them. And I think that's hey, I want to welcome Solar. Welcome, Solar. We're deep in a conversation about solar radiation management, or SRM. But anyway, so my point is that I think what's been a distraction for Ye is this notion that, you know, he should really only be talking with other academics, right? And for him to come down from the ivory tower and mix it up with normal people like us, for lack of a better word, though I wouldn't exactly characterize this as normal, but for him to come down from the ivory tower to talk with us, I think for him, that occurs to him like a step down or something like that, like he's not at the right table. But if he's with a bunch of other, you know, Harvard scientists and they're comparing papers or at a conference or something, then he's at the right table, right? So I think the right group of humanity, the right combination of us, thank you so much, sweetheart, is precisely all of humanity. The right table is the table that includes everyone. And that's kind of a big pill for people to swallow, I think, because until then, you're just going to have more and more and more of this positioning and standoffishness and one-upsmanship and dominance games and bullying and all this other crap. I mean, what Professor Keith is basically saying is, hey, Ye, you know, that's interesting, but I pull rank on you. I'm way higher ranked than you. And so I get to say whether your solution is interesting or not, right? Heaven forbid that he should actually stoop down low enough to actually meet with Ye. Who's not a professor, he's a scientist employed by Harvard, but he's not a tenured professor, such as David Keith. So there's this pulling of rank and this and that and all, you know, that's what's screwing us up, right? We're not operating as one united humanity. And that's part of the reason I'm so big on the solution of ending hunger as one of the first things we do, if not the very first thing that we do, because that signals humanity coming together. If we make sure that every one of us is well fed, that's a huge step in the direction of humanity coming together. I would say that's probably the critical step, because prior to that, your punishment for not making Bill Gates and Jeff Bezos richer is that you starve to death. That's your punishment for not playing the game. And the Hunger Games is one screwed up game. And when I've said it many times, when I brought it up to Bill at Microsoft that we take on ending hunger, he wasn't interested, right? Because if you take away the rod, the bludgeon held over the heads of not just the poor, but of all of humanity, that if you don't play the game, pay your taxes, get out there, be a sociopath, you know, and do your part in destroying Mother Earth to make money, you don't get to eat. You get to starve, right? So, and that simply gets back to the point that we've really got to look at this holistically. We're groping for the keyhole, and unfortunately, it's not obvious where the keyhole is. Is it ending hunger? Is it collective intelligence? Is it SRM? Right? Is it a spiritual transformation? Is it a religious transformation? Is it a revolution? You know, what's the keyhole? Is it this conversation? Is it a different conversation? If so, which? Right? But I think that between hunger, which is all about taking care of the least privileged and least propertied of our brothers and sisters, on the one hand. So ending hunger is all about people. SRM is all about planet. For me, those are the two bookends. If we can get those two right, we can hold all the books together and work our way throughout the entire stack. But if we don't have the bookends, I think books are going to be falling over off of one end or the other of the stack or both. Yes, Emery, go for it.
How is Ye, Pauline, and Guy? Are they on board with the stone soup? With the stone soup, with the
Yeah.
eating Brooklyn.
No, great question. The short answer is no. What Guy said is that it's been well studied and well understood for decades that feeding people leads to more people. And, you know, he didn't come right and say that we should let people starve to death, but that's the obvious conclusion from what he did say. And so I then included in my video that, look, well, really two things to say about that. The first thing is that all lives matter. And not just African-American Black lives, but all lives matter. So, you know, on the one hand, you've got Pauline saying Black Lives Matter. On the other hand, you've got Guy saying, let the Black people in Africa starve. You know, do Black Lives Matter, yes or no, right? And, but the second thing is that actually here, and let me just screen share over here. Let me just.
I just wanted to see whether their involvement in that would be a positive or a negative, you know?
Yeah, they're really not interested. They haven't shown any interest whatsoever in participating in ending hunger, right? In fact, negative interest on the side of Guy. He's basically saying, let him starve.
So that's a conflict.
Well, yeah, no shit.
Yay also?
Yeah, didn't say anything about that. Here, let me screen share over here. Okay. So, of all of our problems, poverty or income distribution is a root, if not the root. And a radical solution is to transform the global economy. So, as you see in this graph, world income distribution is an exponential. And literally, though as hard to believe as this may be, literally half of the area under the curve, half of the shaded green area, a full 50% of the shaded green area is the near infinitely tall sliver of this very last 1%. So this very thin sliver that goes way up, you know, probably a few miles into the sky, literally, I mean, just do the math. 100,000 relative to 100 billion, that's a factor of 1 in a million. So we're literally talking about hundreds of kilometers into the sky. This graph, literally at the scale of my computer screen that I'm looking at, a normal computer screen, we're literally talking about this thing going hundreds of kilometers into the sky. I mean, just crazy, right? And most of humanity is down here in the, you know, centimeters of wealth, of income, right? Even the wealthiest, you know, 5%, the 5%, the 95 percentile is, you know, centimeters, while Bill Gates and Jeff Bezos are hundreds of kilometers up there. I mean, it is that obscene. It's just ridiculous. And so you want to talk population growth, right? The portion that's closest to the flat line down here, most of the flat line, that is your engine of overpopulation. Poverty is the engine of overpopulation. And specifically subsistence farmers who have enough to eat and not much beyond that. So they eat and they bunk, and they eat and they bunk, and they eat and they bunk. And they have a bunch of kids, and as long as one of them makes it, then they're set. And that's their insurance policy against an old age of poverty and misery, is that at least one of their kids make it. And if more than one makes it, that's all the better. Anyway, that's my point there. You want to stop population growth and poverty. And of course, that's what CCC is all about. I'll just fast forward through it. It's all about filling the bathtub, as I say. The bathtub is nearly empty for most of humanity. If we just raise that floor, right, then we'll be doing, you won't have that situation of extreme poverty driving extreme population growth. So it's actually in the world's best interests, everyone's best interest, to raise that floor. And the first level to raising the floor is ending hunger. It's that simple. It's such an obvious solution. But not everybody knows all that, and so they just assume, oh, if you feed them, they'll have more kids. Well, it's actually the opposite. If you feed them, they'll have less kids. If we eliminate poverty, we'll have less overpopulation.
So this is the conversation they want to avoid.
Yeah, I think part of it is actually sadistic. Just like seeing others as others and therefore their enemy. And, you know, goodness, not lifting a finger to feed the starving when the economic system that has given you so much privilege has been causing the rest to starve, and you don't want to do anything to correct that.
Realistically speaking, if you think about it, not only is that happening already, and those people are starving, the powers that be are still they're dropping fucking bombs on those starving people as well. Like, I mean, they can't die fast enough for them. Like, simple as that. Look what's happening in fucking like the likes of fucking you know, what you know, I can't even go into it. But you know what I'm talking about, like fucking in what the Saudis are doing to the fucking over there, and there's 2.5 million people starving in a famine condition as it is, like, and they're dropping fucking bombs on them, like, you know what I mean? That's gone on for the last fucking a year and a half, nearly 2 years. Does the world look over there and take any notice? Nah, too busy shopping.
Too busy shopping and blaming the victims.
Exactly. And what do they do when they're shopping? Putting more money in the fucking 1%'s pocket. And getting themselves into more debt and putting more money in the 1%'s pocket. And on and on. That's a positive feedback for you. And it's going for the 1%.
So I just wanted to ask you, Jamin, so the last 2 hours is dedicated to Vegan 2060 and 2026. And I guess the project for Brooklyn Eats, is that going to take place under their umbrella, or you know, you're gonna revolve around that app that they're putting together, or at the press conference? I mean, you're basically very integrated there. What's happening? What's happening?
Yeah. So basically, the center of mass has shifted from Brooklyn to Arizona, and the vehicle that they're focused on now is not so much centered around the app, but centered around getting commercial kitchens of primarily religious organizations, churches, mosques, synagogues, temples, etc. Those that have commercial kitchens, which I'd say a lot of them do, getting them to get in the game and take on, the food preparation part, and have other volunteers do the distribution. So they're just working at kind of organically getting that going in Arizona, ultimately to be supported by the app, right? But really, that's kind of the center of mass of what the focus of Food Healers is at the moment. And on top of that, I'm lobbying for the Planetary Collective Intelligence to form around that for the sharing of best practices, whether it's how to recruit a religious institution to, menus and recipes and the sourcing the food and the funding of everything and all the above, right? So collective intelligence. So those are really the two main areas of focus: the organic evolution of the Food Healers in Arizona, and collective intelligence, which is a planetary thing.
Okay, so Brooklyn Eats is what's the status?
Well, there's rioting in Brooklyn, and it would be, I think it's all but fallen off the table at this point. I mean, it's not the focus now. That's not to say that it won't become the focus again in the future. I think, but it's not my focus, and it's not. I don't think it's anyone's particular focus at this moment. Brooklyn needs specifically.
So I can say there'll be no food delivered in Brooklyn.
At least not from us for the time being until further notice.
But there is the app which is going to move ahead in, and you say Phoenix?
Phoenix area. But look, as we bring collective intelligence in, just like we got Fallon from Brooklyn participating here, and John Raymer, who's from Brooklyn, we can build out the collective intelligence in Brooklyn ASAP. Every Brooklynite is welcome here in this meeting right here, right now, for example.
I mean, that press conference had a lot of potential.
No, and it still does. It's just, I'm just being.
Timing's off.
I don't know about that. We also have to think about what do we really want to focus on here, right? And we've kind of intentionally been a bit all over the map to kind of figure the map out. And I think one of the big things that, one of our biggest opportunities is figuring out exactly what to focus on here. I'm gravitating more towards collective intelligence and collective superintelligence. And branching is deep into SRM and is deep into food healers, feeding everyone as appropriate to imbue those movements with collective superintelligence, and for collective superintelligence to be nurtured by people coming together around whatever problem or solution, but playing in a realm of collective intelligence.
Also, travel's really hard right now. Like I heard on the radio on NPR that the Canadian border is closed. They're only letting people who have family in Canada across, and with 2 weeks quarantine.
Wow. Wow. Wow.
Yeah, my medical appointment was canceled also. So, yeah, it's all gonna be by phone or computer.
And a big part of my current focus on SRM is simply the realization that if Guy and Ye were to jump into the conversation and commit to the conversation, like let's say they were to commit to coming to the block party 1 hour every Friday, 1 hour a week. I'm going to pause recording for a second.